Apologies, my the mic isn't working exactly today. So aside from the inbuilt camera one, but anyway, so Prozac Nation by Elizabeth Wurtzel is I think the a second thing I did read Creatocracy, I think it's called, a shorter kind of essay type form thing that she wrote. I think like it not too long ago, like maybe like it's 6 or 7 years ago, something like that. And before she tragically passed away, I think due to complications of some form of cancer, I believe. And yeah, but Prozac Nation, it's her, I think her debut novel, and it's quite a read. It's memoir-esque, but it's she tried, like, I think in the foreword she mentioned that she tried her best to kind of keep it clandestine, whether or not she was certain names she referred to as real people. She would try to protect their identity, just out of a general kind of sympathy. But yeah, it's just like kind of some, unlike some people who do like memoirs, they write like the celebrity memoir, which I really don't like that category at all, with some exceptions. But stuff like where people just kind of just name drop someone, like, and then I saw this person, and then just like kind of just divulging everything. But yeah, I never liked that kind of stuff. Anyway, so yeah, this is it's a complicated book because it's kind of in the vein of like Sylvia Plath's Belgiar, and something like Joanne Didion. It's also been compared to Suzanne Kay, I think her name is, for which the 1999 movie Girl Interrupted was based off of her book, which is her struggle with bipolar. I think no, it's a bipolar, or was it I think so. I could be wrong, but anyway, so yeah, this is Wurtzel's kind of straight face to the point, just really kind of no holds bar, nothing, no sugarcoating, just what it's like to have depression, and not just any kind of depression. She had like fits of like almost psychosis, I think, since a young age. She describes, like, I think early on, it starts kind of right in smack dab in the middle of her having kind of I think sometime during college, she's like sharing her with her flatmate, and then they're both about to have this party, and then she's trying to get the edge off by taking a few different, I think, tiny hints of cocaine to kind of like ease her up, and then she starts talking about like how like completely out of bounds she feels, and how like at first she feels like on fire, like she can talk to like a million different people if she wanted to, and like cycle through all these different interactions, and then all of a sudden it just comes crashing down, and that's kind of like the first image we get, like peek into that kind of what it's like for her to kind of process this kind of stuff. And it's, as somebody who has suffered from certain periods of depression myself, I think the term for what I occasionally have is dysthemia, which in some sense it kind of manifests itself at like not unlikely moments, but moments when I it kind of when I'm on emotional load, but more so it kind of shows up during a certain point of the day, and I can't really stop it. Like I can't prevent it. It doesn't matter. Like I can feel like kind of like on fire. Like when I can feel like $1,000,000 like for the most of the part of the day if I kind of put my mind to it. But then there's no telling like what severity, what type of intensity I might be feeling. Like I could be totally out of it. I could be completely just like almost catatonic to the point where I just don't want to do anything or talk to anybody, and just kind of like hollow up and not do my job or do anything, and just like sit there and just kind of do nothing. But I also try to fight that in a way, just trying to like keep it at bay by like keeping active or trying to be exercise and do certain things. And there's other things that might be at play too. It's like an existential thing. It could be and some of it is, like a good amount of it is just kind of like why are we here, kind of what's the purpose of any of this, things that irk me like that, more than things that are just material needs, like I need like how am I gonna feed myself this week, even though that could be very much something that I struggle with. But yeah, I think with Wurtzel it's more clinical. Like I think it's like very stark, like depression. And then she states that she started feeling it when she was, I think, about 20. I'm sorry, 12, I think. And that was like kind of when she was at summer camp, and then she started feeling it coming in kind of early throes of it were like this intense, like moody kind of thing. Like she tried, like that was her first kind of attempt at like kind of not just suicidal ideation, but like beyond that, like actually taking a bunch of like sleeping pills, and then everybody's wondering why she would do that. It's like at summer camp, like we're supposed to be thinking about boys and all this stuff, and about playing hooky and doing all these fun things and activity and team building exercises and stuff like that, and she just like completely just doesn't like can't express that, so she tries to hide it. And that's like kind of from there. That's kind of like shows like a downfall, and then into her teen years, and then when this whole hormonal kind of thing. I expect it's totally different for girls, obviously, and I can't really. I wish I could have emphasized more with that, like what it actually feels like, but I just can't quite wrap my head around the kind of depression that she was feeling, because some of it was like she would do things, and again, this kind of reminded me of Girl Interrupted, but like she would do things that were impulsive, or just jumping into things, or just jumping into like relationships or people or bad men, and how and not really, I don't know, not really having like maybe foresight into these things. And I just don't I get that the author, the reader is supposed to kind of like be like like, wait, what the heck is she doing, like why would she do that? It's like it sounds foolish, like just why would you waste your time with somebody who's going to treat you like garbage? But it's I can't, that's something that from my point of view, I'm just saying from my point of view of like I've never had a personal, I've maybe I just don't have any experience of like of failed relationships to look back on to kind of gauge that. But I think a lot of what she does is circuitous. It's like almost like clockwork on depression and like feeling, and it's like when you read about it, it's like, and then again I feel it's like she starts like talking about like electric convulsive shock therapy. I think they tried, which I actually didn't know till semi recently. I was like looking it up out of curiosity, just like, do you actually feel pain in that? Like, do you feel physical pain, the shocks? And I was like, oh, they put you under anesthesia, I think, and they kind of to numb, they put you under that, so obviously you're not going to feel like the actual, like the convulsing shocks of that, luckily. But that still doesn't necessarily mean that there's other side effects, that could be much worse. And that's part of the thing that Wurtzel was talking about. It was like the thing with depression is that it doesn't make, if it could be like, if her depression, something she said to this effect, like if it could just be this interesting kind of version of depression that was like manic, creative, artistic, like if I could just paint, like and be like the most creative I could be, and just write and do this and do that, and just immerse myself wholly into this thing and just bask in something kind of creative expression or enterprise. But it's not, like she said, like it's actually lukewarm, kind of tepid, mundane, kind of just which I can identify with to an extent. That's why it's called Prozac Nation. Is like she's actually talking about a lot of different. Prozac was probably the best thing that could, but she doesn't like vouch for it. She's not saying like, oh, Prozac's a lifesaver. It's like has like everything has a side effects. Like even like the sertraline I take is like 100 milligrams or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't even know like what extent I want to change that, or if I want to keep at it. I'm afraid if I stop taking it, somehow there might be like worse side effects and withdrawal. So it's like with any type of drug, and this isn't just like for various antidepressants or anti-anxiety or reuptake inhibitors and serotonin type stuff. But yeah, it's like it's more it's also for any, I think, like drugs for recreation. It's like it all goes back to the same thing of just kind of dependency, and your body building this dependence on it, whether it's mental or physical or both. And that's kind of what she had to do with, was like is that Prozac wasn't this key to her being happy. It was just happened to be one of the better things on the market. That was like the best possible denominator for what she was going through. So that was sad because you'd think like I would just wish there was some magic cure all drug too. I think um, that would just like if I could just be happier, be more productive, and be more aware or alert and the best person I can be. Not to use a cliche or whatever, but it and that's part of what makes it I suppose like a little bit. You're almost angry a little bit because there's like one part where she goes to England and she talks about because she went to Harvard too and she came from I had more sympathy because she didn't start off right on the bat. It was like I came from a family that gave me a silver spoonful or whatever, but it wasn't like I don't think that was the case because she mentioned having her divorced parents and her father like never being there for her, and you kind of get the idea that the character of her father, in a sense, I say character because I don't want to necessarily dig at the person himself but just his presence or lack thereof was kind of it just kind of like it was like something that like I kind of I wanted to kind of lash out and be like why the hell isn't he like it's bullshit that he's not there for his kids or a daughter at all, like just kind of ducking out and just like spending half the time, most of the time, kind of avoiding. And then I realized in some sense it's like there's something like it's more complicated than that. It's like you have to deal with the fact that like single parenthood and like mothers sometimes they put down the foot and they do something like some things where she was like pushing away her own ex-husband in a way because she didn't trust him with her daughter. So it was like kind of like a double-edged sword, I guess. Like it was something where maybe if you see deep down you can kind of understand like, well, okay, so she's like really depressive and maybe he just doesn't feel equipped or doesn't know how to take care of her, so he's gonna kind of just avoid her and just kind of like skirt everything he can, like just to not deal with it, just because the responsibility is so huge too. It's just like how do you do that? And then a simple thing would be like just don't have kids. That's what I keep. So I probably hear. I've probably said more times than I can count. Just people who get into these relationships and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant, and it's just like, or my girlfriend, my wife is pregnant, or whatever. Usually they're not married, obviously, and they just get in these situations where it's like, and then they bring this kid into it too. It's like I'm not saying by any means not saying to get an abortion. It's a very complicated issue, moral issue, ethically, on the sanctity of like human life is a very tough issue. I mean, my parents were very, very much, and still are, or my dad was, and always like strong Catholics, staunchly anti-abortion, pro-life, but yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just trying aping what he's doing, but I'm at the end of the day, no matter how many times I try to be like progressive and of this mind on this issue, no matter how many times I try to be open-minded and on that issue, on any type of modern day issue, when it comes to like women's rights or anything like that, it's like pretty much I'm open to so much except for that. I need to keep going back to the kind of like, well, what if it is like what if they are feeling pain? It's like you wouldn't treat that like when you hear about like even like an animal, like when like the way we treat like how we hear about a dog having an miscarriage, and we're like, oh, that's sad, then we should have puppies. So why do we feel the same when it's like a girl that has a miscarriage or a woman that has even if it's at like a kind of inopportune time in their life and they're like, I can't really feel like bringing them this kid into life, but tying up that thought again, like a lot of these people I have also tried to understand, at least, that they're coming from a place like I get that you can't plan these things, like falling in love or falling for somebody, even if it's like really just kind of like a messy situation, you can't predict these things. You can't put like a timeline on it. You can't plan these things to a T. But like in the back of my head, that's what's always going on. It's like, don't have a kid if you can. This is probably something that Plato said too. I think it's like if man isn't ready to kind of rear children, then to like bring them into this kind of philosopher king type of world, then don't bother having kids. Like don't. But that was a different time. But I don't think those words. I don't think that's. I still think those hold true in some sense. Like if you're not equipped, I don't think, then you're bringing more pain and more terror on this kid's life, and you don't even know. And then there's also like the kind of variables in life that you don't know about, like whether he can get, they or he or she can get hit by a car, or worse yet, it's like the whole thing about like, oh, it's like the kind of like they could be the next Hitler, the next Antichrist kind of. That's like so outside of them, But like the things of like the standard kind of, well, what if they just die young? What if they get this or something, or what if they get, it's like adoption is always there, and that's what Wurtzel was saying that I really liked was like, she had a miscarriage because she didn't know she was like so, kind of preoccupied by this depression that she didn't know, I think, that she got pregnant with one of her I think boyfriends, and she ended up having a miscarriage, and then like the nurse was like, oh, like it's such a shame, like, or it's like, or it's not such a shame or something, because I think she was like, you would have, well, at least you don't have to have an abortion or something, or like, and it was like, and then she like said how like heartbreaking that felt, like, because it was like, yeah, but it was still not my choice that I didn't get to have this kid, and like maybe like I probably wouldn't have had an abortion, I think is what she's saying, but not to put words in her mouth, but that's kind of the sense I got. Check. Okay. Okay. So